A special thank you to each of our subscribers who make this channel possible. Here's today's story. As tensions continue to simmer in the Middle East, the first phase of the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas has reached its conclusion, leaving many uncertain about the future. The ceasefire, which included a series of hostage-for-prisoner swaps, has provided a brief respite from the violence that has plagued the region for months. However, with the first phase ending on Saturday night and no clear plan for what comes next, both Israelis and Palestinians are left in a state of limbo. Shamek Al-Dibs, a resident of northern Gaza whose home was destroyed in the conflict, currently lives in a school that has been converted into a shelter for displaced individuals. He expressed his hope that the ceasefire would continue, yet he remains deeply uncertain about the future. The completion of the initial 6-week phase has not led to significant progress in negotiations for the next steps, which has made the already fragile situation even more precarious. Israeli officials have announced plans to send a delegation to Cairo in an attempt to negotiate an extension of the ceasefire with Hamas in exchange for the release of additional hostages. However, this extension would require addressing more complex issues, including the potential for a permanent end to the war and the reconstruction of Gaza. The situation is particularly tense for the families of Israeli captives, who are caught between hope and despair as they await news of their loved ones' fates. The Israeli government has confirmed that there are still 59 hostages being held in Gaza, with only 24 believed to be alive. The future of these hostages is closely tied to the ongoing negotiations for the second phase of the ceasefire agreement, which was brokered by the US, Egypt, and Qatar. The agreement aims to secure the release of all remaining hostages in exchange for a permanent ceasefire and the withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza. However, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu faces mounting pressure from hardline members of his cabinet to abandon the truce and resume military operations against Hamas. Netanyahu has consistently stated that the objective of the conflict is to dismantle Hamas, a goal that has proven elusive despite extensive military operations. As the deadline for the first phase of the ceasefire approaches, Netanyahu's decision to send negotiators to Cairo offers a glimmer of hope for those seeking a diplomatic resolution. The recent return of the remains of 4 Israeli hostages as part of the final exchange has only intensified the urgency of the situation. While the ceasefire has allowed for the release of around 600 Palestinian prisoners, many of whom were detained during the conflict, the fate of the remaining Israeli hostages remains uncertain. The families of these hostages are advocating for the continuation of the ceasefire, hoping that it will lead to their loved ones' safe return. In the backdrop of these negotiations, the humanitarian situation in Gaza continues to deteriorate. The vast majority of the Palestinian population has been displaced due to the ongoing conflict, and many have returned to find their homes and communities in ruins. The prospect of reconstruction hangs in the balance as discussions around the second phase of the ceasefire unfold. Critics of U.S. policy in the region have raised concerns about proposals that suggest displacing Palestinians from Gaza to make way for new developments, which they argue could amount to ethnic cleansing. The situation is further complicated by the refusal of regional allies, such as Egypt and Jordan, to accept displaced Palestinians. As negotiations continue, the focus remains on how to achieve a sustainable resolution that addresses the needs of both Israelis and Palestinians. The U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, has emphasized the importance of securing the release of the last American national believed to be among the surviving hostages. He has stated that the U.S. is committed to ensuring the safe return of all Americans involved. Witkoff's remarks highlight the urgency of the situation and the need for a comprehensive plan that encompasses both the release of hostages and the reconstruction of Gaza. As the clock ticks down to the end of the first phase of the ceasefire, the hope for a continuation of diplomacy remains strong. The families of the remaining Israeli hostages, along with the millions of Palestinians affected by the conflict, are watching closely as negotiators work to find common ground. The outcome of these discussions will not only determine the fate of the hostages, but also shape the future of the region as a whole. The delicate balance between peace and conflict hangs in the balance, and the world watches with bated breath as the next chapter in this ongoing saga unfolds. That's all for this story. We upload videos every day covering many different subjects, So hit that subscribe button to stay informed. Thanks for watching.